Welcome to the Pitch Your Pick podcast, the podcast where we dive deep into the sports book, find our favorite plays, and pitch them each other to find the best bets every day. Thank you for joining us today. I'm your host, Joe, along with Jer, and we're going to get into this with some wonderful picks for the day. How you doing today, my man?
I'm doing well. I had a good sleep last night. Had to recoup from two crappy bets, but I'm ready to get after it today.
Oh, I slept in a good extra half an hour. It felt like, it was amazing. So we have a decent slate of games. We'll switch over to our shared screen so we can check them out today. Look at that. Tiger Woods. Nice little article on ESPN. Go check it out. Obviously, no NFL games. We had the wonderful Super Bowl, but the NBA, while not being back tonight, is going to be back tomorrow. So that'll be pretty exciting. So you guys can prepare for it. Check it out if anything's out. We do already have all the lines, which is going to be pretty cool. We have a decent little slate of NHL games. Obviously, I am a filthy casual when it comes to the NHL, but I know you have some opinions on some of these games tonight.
Yeah, so we got a relatively quiet night in the NHL. Only 5 games on the ice tonight. Most notably, the Avalanche and the Red Wings, and the Sabres and the Canadiens, which we're going to talk about more later. The other 3 games don't really interest me that much tonight. The thing that I think should be talked about is the fact that the Toronto Maple Leafs have now lost 3 games in a row outright, being favored by minus 267, minus 392, and minus 210 in those games. The Leafs are sliding, and they might be a look to fade here in the future.
That's not good. That's not good.
Not good.
If we switch it over to college basketball tonight, we have quite a few top 25 matchups. If we actually check out yesterday, I have some pretty decent ones overall. But tonight, we do have number 7 Duke going against Virginia. We have Providence against Xavier, Texas against TCU, Houston against Tulane. I do like this Auburn-Ole Miss matchup. Last time, Auburn actually almost lost Ole Miss. They did give them a good fight, so that'll be an interesting one, although we do have Auburn as 16-point favorites. They have taken a few losses, so I do think Auburn's going to bounce back pretty well. Kentucky versus LSU. LSU was previously ranked. This should be a pretty nice game, despite what that 7.5 spread says for Kentucky. And Wisconsin going against Minnesota. It's only a 5-point favorite for Wisconsin, but I gotta think that Wisconsin's going to be taking this one pretty handedly. Then we have some decent ones for Division 1. We do have my Syracuse Orange playing a little bit later tonight, which is going to be interesting to see. They're going against Notre Dame. Also some ACC games with Wake Forest and Clemson. Overall, it's a pretty decent slate of games for a Wednesday night. Iowa State, West Virginia, also going to be a good game. So overall, it's going to be nice. Love Davidson as well playing. So it's going to be interesting, as well as this Rutgers and Michigan game, which we're going to be talking about. But first, because we forgot to do it in the beginning, we are going to check out yesterday's picks that we all made. You can see our yesterday's performance right here. Now, the UConn -2 versus Villanova, that was a beautiful, exactly -2 win. So that's neither a dub nor an L. We're just going to go perfect equal on that. So it's going to be all right. It was actually a pretty good game. I actually completely chalked this one. I thought that it was going to be an easy win for Nova. I think they were up 4 with 25 seconds left in the game, but UConn brought it back to end up winning exactly by 2, which is awesome. The Minnesota Wild regulation money line, Jared, that wasn't looking too hot, now was it?
No, both of my bets kind of went in the same way. Both the Wild and the Panthers were scoring, but neither really felt like playing defense, I guess. They both gave up a couple easy goals in front of the net, and then they both also gave up a couple goals on bad bounces, and it just wasn't our night. So we'll get back after it tonight with hopefully a couple better picks.
And then our last one was San Diego State Moneyline versus Boise State. Now, if you guys were watching the podcast yesterday, I told you guys to go for the spread, but I was personally going to be going the Moneyline because I felt pretty confident on this. So if you did actually take the spread, San Diego State only lost by 1, and their spread was, I think, either 2 or 2.5, depending on what time you were getting it. So that would actually be a check if you went ahead and picked up the spread. But if you went with me, went with the Moneyline, that is sadly an L. It was a very close, very heavy defensive game. And it happens again. San Diego State didn't score above 60, and they took the L. So anyway, we can switch it back to our 2 webcams here. It's going to be an interesting one. Obviously, we're going to start it off with Jerry, like we always do with his beautiful NHL picks, and he can tell us what he's got popping today.
So the first game we're going to be looking at is the Colorado Avalanche and the Detroit Red Wings. I'm going to look at the total in this game, and we have a total of 6. And I'm going to bet over 6. And I guess here's why. So we bet on the Avalanche in the first episode and they burned us. But we're going right back to it. The Avalanche are the second most profitable team to the over in the NHL. And on the other side, the Red Wings are the 13th most profitable team to the over in the NHL. The Red Wings have a record to the over of 27-3-1, and the Avalanche have a record of 28-6-16-5. These two teams have already played once this year, and the Avalanche covered the total by themselves. The total closed at 6.5, and the Avalanche won the game 7-3. This was an extremely fast-paced game that saw a total of 87 shots combined between both teams. And as we know, because we bet it in the episode 1, the Avalanche are coming off a 5-1 throttling to the Boston Bruins. Well, the thing is, the Avalanche don't like to get embarrassed. They're 6-0 after allowing 5 or more goals in the previous game, and the over is also 3-0 in the last 4 games after allowing 5 or more goals. A couple trends to note for the Red Wings is the over is 4-0 in the last 4 games after allowing 2 goals or less in their previous game. And the over is 5-0 in the Red Wings' last 5 following a win. The Avalanche rank 2nd in goals per game with 3.9, and the Red Wings rank 25th in goals per against a game. The Red Wings haven't been a great offensive team this season throughout the whole year, but recently that trend has started to change. Over the last 10 games, they're scoring more than 3.30 goals per game, but over that time span, they're still allowing 4.10 goals, and that's about a total of 7.40 goals in Red Wings games, so that clears the total easily. The Avalanche will be on 1 day's rest. They're 16-11 to the over when on a day's rest, whereas the Red Wings should be extremely well rested tonight. They haven't played a game since February 17th, and when they're on 3+ days of rest, they're 4-3 to the over. I think this matchup has the potential to look a lot like the last we saw in that 7-3 win for the Avalanche. With a total of 6 in this game, there is that safety net of being able to push. But I think with the Red Wings averaging more than 7 goals a game in their last 10, and the Avalanche scoring basically 4 goals a game this year, I'm taking the over here.
Okay. So, I mean, that was a good pitch. I got to give it to you. It sounds pretty solid. I mean, again, looking at the scores, I mean, these have been some high-scoring games recently for both teams. And, I mean, if you got them on that many days of rest for professional sports athletes, I mean, that's like an off season for them, not playing till the 17th, now on the 23rd. I mean, come on. But
the thing that's scary, I guess, with this bet is the Avalanche they can lock it down on defense, but like we saw it on the last game, they could easily give up 4 goals in 20 minutes. They gamble a lot. They jump up in the rush. They give up a lot of odd man rushes, and they give up a lot of scoring chances to go along with all the scoring chances they get. So I really don't see this game being slow paced. I think we'll see another game where both teams have 40 shots.
And those are the fun games to watch as well. No, I'm going to speak from a casual, It's not as much fun watching a very heavy defensive game when everybody's just swinging it around and going for it. That's what you want to see. So that'll be an interesting one out there. So for my bet, we're going to have to pivot it over again to college basketball, waiting for that NBA to come through. And I'm going to start it off hot, picking a 5.5 point underdog out here, which is going to be an interesting one, but I'm pretty excited about it. And that's where we're pivoting over to that wonderful Rutgers versus Michigan game. I don't know, this one's got me pretty interested in it. So for Rutgers and Michigan, they actually have played one time before, but both these teams are considered to be on the bubble for the NCAA tournament. Rutgers and Michigan both have had interesting seasons. Rutgers is currently sitting at 16-10, and Michigan is at 14-11. So they're just right on that cusp of, are they going to make it or are they going to get kicked out? But it's probably not a surprise to anybody that has been keeping up with college sports that Michigan had a bit of a scuffle in their last game against Wisconsin. We all saw, Juwan Howard smacking out the assistant coach on Wisconsin. So they're playing without Juwan Howard tonight, which is going to be pretty tough. And they actually have 2 other players that are going to be missing from this Michigan roster, which is going to be pretty tough. Those 2 players are going to be Musa Diabate and the wonderful Terrence Williams II. Now, neither of these guys are insane when it comes to their stat totals and stat products. Diabate is at 9.3 points per game. Terrence Williams at 4.3. But both these guys are very lengthy forwards that help out this Michigan defense. I mean, you can see it. Musa is a 6'11", 210 guy. and Terrence Williams is 6'7", 230. They are great lengthy perimeter defenders, which is going to be pretty tough going against a Rutgers team who may not be the best shooters outside there, but are really good at working it around the perimeter and getting it inside. So that in and out game can be pretty tough to go against when you're missing two guys who are as versatile as these guys on defense. And you do have Diabite, who had 15 points in that last game against Rutgers, now not going to be there. And Rutgers did take that last game, which is going to be, again, it's stacking up against Michigan here. I just don't really understand why Rutgers is still, the underdog here, considering what happened last game and with what's going on with Michigan. It's going to be pretty tough. If we do actually look at these guys, Rutgers is currently ranked as the 67th best scoring defense and the 80th best field goal percentage defense. So they're really good at slowing down their opponents. And it just so happens that the best scorer on Michigan is an inside guy known as Hunter Dickinson. This guy is actually an animal. Hunter Dickinson is great at getting inside. He averaged, I think, 18 points per game and 8 rebounds at the middle of that Michigan defense and our offense. And he's actually just the most consistent player across the board, which is going to be interesting. So Rutgers is a great inside team, and Michigan is great at getting inside and scoring. It's going to be a battle of who can win it. But the great thing is, without those two other guys that aren't going to be playing tonight, it's going to be a little bit easier for Rutgers to actually shrink that defense down, focus a little bit more on Dickinson. And the only good shooter on this Michigan team is Eli Brooks, shooting 40% from deep. So all you have to do really is focus on Dickinson and Brooks, and you should be having a pretty decent time because they're not really going to be punished. I think as a team right now, Michigan is shooting 113 out of 368 from the three-point line. They're really just not that big of a threat out there. So it's going to be pretty easy out there for, I think, Rutgers defense. Now, the problem comes with Rutgers in the fact that they really only score with their main 5 guys, which is a little bit concerning because when you don't have a lot of depth, anytime you get into foul trouble, you're bringing in guys who really aren't used to playing. I mean, you can see the production that they're getting out of these 5 guys. Harper's averaging 15.5, Baker 12.2, Clifford 11.6, and Paul at 9.3 here. Not many guys off the bench are really providing any good minutes. So if they do get into foul trouble, it's probably going to end up going Michigan's way. But this is the perfect storm for Rutgers. They're an amazing defensive team, as we mentioned earlier. Michigan is a great scoring defense as well, with amazing three-point defense. But the fact that Rutgers really doesn't shoot a lot of threes and also goes inside, I'm really looking at Michigan to get upset at home on this one because Rutgers has just been playing amazing lately, whereas Michigan is looking to be on a slide. I mean, if we look at Rutgers, they have played 5 games consecutive against top 20 opponents against Michigan State, Ohio State, Wisconsin, Illinois, and Purdue. They beat Ohio State. They beat Wisconsin, who Michigan just lost by, I think, 13-2. They beat Illinois and lost to number 5 Purdue in a grueling game. So Rutgers has been playing amazing, where Michigan is on a slide and without 2 players and their head coach. It's just going to be tough. On Rutgers is actually 5-0-1 at the spread in their last 6 games. They're 4-0 on their last 4 road games. Michigan is 0-4 on Wednesdays, but they are 5-1 against the spread in their last 6 following a loss. But I'm going to have to ride with Rutgers. They've won 4 of their last 5, and all of those last 5, again, like we said, were against top 25 teams. It's just looking like Rutgers can take this one at home. Plus, how do you not root for the underdog out here?
Yeah, no, I like that. I don't know how you'd bet against a team that has beat 4 top 25 teams in 5 games and
they're going against
not
guys
even ranked
without a coach, without the head coach here. I was shocked seeing that 5.5 point favorite for Michigan. It just doesn't. I could understand if it was like a point or 2, but 5.5 seems a little steep.
No, yeah, that line seems very long, especially with Michigan without their coach and missing guys. I would probably myself bet the spread and then also maybe put a sprinkle on the money line or half a unit on the money line as well. Okay. But I would take the spread just in case we see one of those weird things where you go win one for the Gipper for the suspended coach or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, you could see this is kind of like a make or break, I think, for this Michigan team where, if they can, hop out there, win without their coach, I think that looks really good for their bid into the tournament. But if you lose, it's kind of expected, it is what it is for the team. But, we never know. Hunter Dickinson can come out here, drop 30 on Rutgers and carry him to a win. You never know.
Who knows? Let's ride with Rutgers, though. 5.5. I'll take that.
All right, what do you got for the next NHL?
So we're gonna look at the Buffalo Sabres and Montreal Canadiens game, one of the battles of the basement we're seeing tonight. This is gonna be a new bet I haven't really made before, but I think it's a pretty interesting angle. I'm gonna be going to the game prop markets here, and I'm gonna take over 62.5 combined shots on goal between both teams at minus 118. And there isn't as much that goes into this bet because it's very straightforward. But these two teams have already played 3 times this year. Buffalo has actually won all 3 matchups, but that doesn't matter to us today. In all 3 of these matchups so far this season, these teams have covered this shot total. These matchups have had 64, 65, and 67 shots on goal. The Montreal Canadiens ranked 30th in shots allowed per game, allowing 34.4 shots per game. The Sabres ranked 31st in shots allowed per game, allowing 34.7 shots per game, for a combined total of 69.1 shots. In the first 3 matchups, we saw a combined 19 power play attempts between these two teams, and that's 6.3 power play attempts per game. I think that's a lot of chances for each team to get, and that when the power play comes, a lot of shots pile up in a hurry usually. Over the last 10 games, the Canadiens are averaging 31.70 shots on goal per game, and the Sabres are averaging 32.20 shots on goal per game. So these offenses are starting to pick it up a little bit recently. They're combining for a total of 63.9 shots per game. With the Canadiens playing better hockey of late, just coming off a win against the Toronto Maple Leafs just 2 nights ago, and the Sabres aren't playing as well, but they have a talented hockey team. I think we're gonna see another up-tempo hockey game here, just like the last 3. We've seen this script over and over again. Both teams have plenty of offensive talent. Both teams have very little defense. I don't normally look at this shot on goal market, but I really like this spot. Depending on how the bet goes, I might have to go back to it.
All right. Another shootout. I like it. I like
shootouts. Shootouts are fun. Shootouts are fun.
It's always the most fun. I mean, I think most people agree, that's kind of why we like, all-star games across all sports. Just watching the best people just kind of go all out on the offensive end and just say screw it on defense. It's just always more entertaining.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, and for our last pick, I have a fairly, I think, easy pick here. I actually be quite surprised if this one goes the other way, and that's where we're going to this Providence versus Xavier game. It's going to be an interesting one because you wouldn't think Providence would only be 1-point favorites at this current time. That bettors are actually going more towards with Xavier right now, but I just don't really see that being the case. Now, with Xavier and Providence, these are both 2 of the top Big East teams right now, but Providence is one of the most experienced team in all of college basketball. They have a lot of juniors and seniors on this roster. They're just experienced, they know what to do, and they're ready to go at it. They're currently 41st in adjusted offensive efficiency. While being a bottom 150 three-point shooting team, they literally don't need to be a threat behind the three-point arc to make it work inside. They're just good at punishing people inside the paint. So if you don't, keep that up, it is going to be tough. And they are mid-range maestros out there, which you gotta love. That DeMar DeRozan style of play is always fun to look at some teams. They're also the 67th best defense according to Ken Palm's adjusted defensive efficiency, which is always nice. Still a great defensive team. And they currently have 10 wins against other top 50 teams, which Xavier's kind of been in and out. I think they're still right now in the top 50, so it's looking pretty good. But if you do look at those games, of those 10, they've all been won by 8 points or less, and 7 of those have actually been won by 4 points or less. You could look at that as Xavier is good at finishing games. They got the ice factor, they're clutch, or you could look at it as they're struggling to beat teams that maybe they should, because obviously Providence is in that top 20 teams, struggling to beat those top 30 to top 40s. That's the 2 ways that you could look at it. But for how great an experience this Providence team is, I just think I'm going to go with the fact that it's their clutch factor, it's their iciness, and they're just able to close out these games that are close against other teams that are going. Now, the problem comes from Providence in the fact that they really aren't good at beating teams that they should blow out. I think they were 13-point favorites in a game against Butler, or at least double-digit favorites in the game against Butler. And if we actually check out the schedule, they beat them by 1 in overtime. It seems like this Providence team has a habit of looking at teams that they're supposed to beat and kind of undervaluing them. But the good thing is that Xavier isn't one of those bad teams. Xavier was previously 21st as of earliest of January 26th. So it's looking to be a game where they're coming in ready to beat them. And the last game that they played was against Villanova. They only lost by 5, and they're playing at home. They are a great home team. Currently, I'm pretty sure Xavier is 14-1 at home this season. Xavier's only 4-4 on the road. So even that is just looking good for them. Xavier started off this season with a crazy 14-3 record. But if we look at the record right now, they're 17-9. They're 3-6 in their last 9 games. The Xavier Musketeers are really starting to slip as the season has been going down, and you don't really love to see that. You have a team in Providence who is just consistently beating the top talent, albeit by small margins, and then you have a team like Xavier who just really isn't proving to have any sort of clutch factor and is just slowly dropping it down in these Big East rankings. And with how it's looking, I'm not really too excited about that. But for Xavier's credit, they are 47th in adjusted offensive efficiency. They turn the ball over at an extremely low rate. They are very good at making tight, crisp passes and only doing things that have a purpose on the basketball court. There's not really many dumb plays coming out of the Xavier squad, but the problem is sometimes they just fail to hit their shots, which
no Russell
you don't
Westbrooks.
love. Yeah, no Russell Westbrooks. So Providence is 10-3 at the spread in the last 13 games following a loss, which currently is pretty good considering they are going off of a loss in their most recent game. Xavier is 1-5 at the spread in their last 6 Wednesday night games. I think this will be a pretty close game between these two teams. They are, again, both really good teams, but as Providence has shown, they just have that it factor. They have that ice factor that makes them able to close out a lot of these close games against good teams. So I'm going to have to ride with them right now. They're only 1-point favorites. You could pick the spread, could pick the money line. I'm going to go with the spread just in case there's a little bit of crazy things. But I think Providence can pretty handedly take this one out considering how downtrending Xavier is to end the season. I don't love that for them.
Yeah, you know what? You just pitched your pick perfectly. I can't disagree with anything you just said.
I mean, we're talking about a 14-1 home team playing at home. These guys, they just got the clutch. Yeah,
that's pretty much it. I don't know if we want to. We don't even need to get into math on that. Well, that's 14-1. You don't bet against that. That's crazy.
Yeah. So those are our picks for the day. We're gonna get our picks for the day screen ready, so we can just go and recap them over and show you guys the odds that we personally bet them on, and just have a good time with that. So we'll be back in a minute for you guys. All right, so here are today's picks. I have Rutgers Moneyline versus Michigan coming in at a whopping plus 176. Again, you can take the spread if you want to. It's definitely a safer pick, but I'm going straight Moneyline right now. I like the odds of Rutgers winning this one.
Yeah, and I am going with a couple safer bets where Joe's going plus money, so we can even each other out. We could actually end up going flat if we go 2-2, but or even making money if that Rutgers line hits going 2-2. So we got the Sabres and Canadiens over 62.5 shots at minus 118, and then we got the Avalanche and the Red Wings going over their game total of 6, and that's at minus 120.
And then our my last pick, is going to be Providence at minus 2.5 to cover the spread versus Xavier at plus 102. I have been checking, and I think it's actually a -1 spread for Providence currently right now. And I think it's at like a minus 110 or something like that. So it is updating. Make sure you check them out. But I still like Providence, obviously, at 1. I think they can win it by 3 or more against Xavier. So that's how it is. So if you guys are watching us on YouTube, please like the video and subscribe to everything. Check out all of our socials. And if you're on any of the podcast platforms, make sure you leave us a review, follow, and all that wonderful stuff to stay tuned with our picks every single day. Yesterday, we went a whopping 1-2-1, but hopefully we can go a nice 4-0 tonight to have a good one. So make sure you make some bets out there and make some money. See you guys tomorrow.
See ya.